Hello, Hellboy fans out there. Toward the Max Extreme here.
And Ghost Hunter Dave.
And together we are Imperius Rex.
That's right. So this is our second episode of Hellyear coverage. Next up in our Hellboy reading order is Wake the Devil, which is our second long story arc involving a resurrected vampire, the return of Project Ragnarok, or at least the crew behind it.
Yep.
And a deeper look into Hellboy's destiny as the Beast of the Apocalypse.
Yes. This is the direct sequel to Seed of Destruction.
Yeah. So it opens with the chairman of this major corporation called Zinco.
Yeah, I love this.
As he stumbles on the secret castle of the remaining Nazi outlaws that kind of funded the Project Ragnarok. Right. And they've all pledged their service to Rasputin, who's now in ghost form after getting speared and boned.
Yep.
But he's still cooking up a grand scheme.
Yep.
He's out for revenge.
Yep.
So the remaining crew, Ilsa Hopstein is your typical blonde ice queen Nazi bitch.
Yep. Yep.
And then we have Cronin.
Yes.
And a couple other just Nazi goons.
Kurwitz, I think, is the other one with the bowl cut.
Eventually the head in the jar.
Yes.
Have a Nazi head in the jar. But Ilsa is responsible for stealing the remains of her lover, Vladimir Girescu. Is that how you pronounce him?
I had a hard time. I wanted to look up how you actually pronounce it, because I think we're both wrong in the way we were saying it, but that's fine.
We're going to say Girescu.
Yes.
Who is a vampire who at one time teamed with Hitler to aid in his war effort, but was betrayed by sneaky old Adolf and killed along with his vampire brides.
Right. So
she steals his remains, and the BPRD hears words of this and gets a team together, as they do in the early days, and head off to Europe to investigate castles and see what they can turn up.
Yes.
Hellboy goes knocking on the first castle. Right. Has a bit of a mishap with his jetpack.
Zinco brand jetpack.
Zinco brand. Jumps out of the plane. Boom! It just blows up on him. And he comes flaming through the castle roof, right on top of the entire, Nazi congregation there. What is with Zinco? Are they sabotaging it, or do they just make shit products?
I was hoping he'd be like a terrible Elon Musk, where he just makes all this dumb shit that's just piss poor, but it's made him $1 billion.
I think that's totally it. And this is well before any of these Facebook or Steve Jobs guys. I think he's just some dude that's made billions, but his stuff is shit. Yeah. None of it works. But the BPRD has gone all in on it.
Oh, yeah.
Every piece of equipment they own is Zinco brand. So Hellboy comes crashing through, sees the swastika on one of the Nazi guards, and goes no, Nazi! And then the Nazi is terrified, and he goes running and jumps out a window to his death. So meanwhile, at a neighboring village, all the old-timers are beginning to feel some ominous threat approaching. Yeah. The elders in the family send their children off, and they're like, no, you don't want to be here for this. And they're like, Papa, come with! And he's like, no, my time has come.
Right.
I like that. I like the approaching dread of everything associated with Girescu. Yeah. For no real reason. He's kind of a turd.
They give him a backstory early on in this before the group goes off and splits up in their own directions. But I like that they give a historical point, and then they're like, but fuck that shit. Here's what's really interesting. Yes. And it gives him all the vampiric stuff and all the stuff he worked with Hitler and all that.
Yeah, Vampire Storm, I think was the project of that. They all have project names.
It's pretty sweet.
But yeah, they build him up to be this major badass. Can't wait to see how that pans out. So back at the castle, Hellboy encounters this skull-faced, Renfield type of character.
This is my, little favorite part in this.
Me too.
This
I love
little-
this guy.
Little bitch of a skeleton.
Who's Girescu's father?
Yeah, I know.
I never picked that up until
He's
this
like-
most recent read.
Totally jealous.
Yes.
Something like that.
And he's like, kind of like, oh, that Hitler. I told my boy not to get involved with old Hitler and not to go chasing these Nazi women.
Right.
Look where it got him.
Right. Because at first, like, Hellboy comes upon him and he's about ready to give him the old 1-2. And then the guy's just like, what are you doing here? And they kind of, like, just befriends him over. And just starts hanging out with him. And they take him on like a tour of the castle.
Yeah, gives him, like, some ancient backstory, the history of the land. So Hellboy kills him.
Right.
Because eventually he becomes something of a threat, a
Right.
mild threat. And then Girescu himself is reanimated shortly after that.
Yes.
But he's instantly, like, taken down and dropped into, like, a crypt before he can fully reform.
Right.
And Hellboy's like, all right, well, he's done for.
Right.
I'm gonna go blow this sucker up. Because he stumbles on, like, this giant warehouse stockpile of, like, warheads.
That's exactly what it is. He just does the best stumbling. Because he, like, stumbles into everything. He looks up and is just in a room full of munitions that can let the whole castle go up in a fiery explosion.
Yep. And he's like, Hellboy gets shit done.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, he's talking on his comm radio. He's like, I can't hear anybody, but I'm going to light this fucker up. So we got 30 minutes and I'm out of here. All right, peace. See you on the other side.
I've set it for an hour. And then he's like booking out of there. And then somebody like catches his eye and he's like,
Oh,
I got time for this.
Yeah. So meanwhile, while all this is going down, we get a little bit of backstory on Rasputin himself. He explains himself to Ilsa. How he's heard the calling of the dragon and how the Baba Yaga has granted him power so that he could be an agent of change and bring forth the new millennium. He also learned that Hellboy's crossed paths with the Baba Yaga a while back, shot out her eye, and depleted her power. Even her chicken leg house, which Rasputin fondly remembers from his boyhood, is gone.
Yes. This is like the Rasputin of like Russian lore that like Mignola just takes for his Hellboy stuff.
Yeah, he's like, he'll do.
Yeah.
This guy was weird. I love that he brought this in, though, because, like, this real-life figure has a strange backstory of, like, being unkillable.
Right.
So, like, yeah, let's just bring him in and continue that on.
Yep.
And throw the Baba Yaga in there, too. And throw in a chicken leg house. Why the fuck not? I love that detail.
Yep.
So he convinces Ilsa to let herself be reborn in the form of this horrifying Iron Maiden in an effort to seek vengeance on Hellboy for everything that he has caused. These couple pages where this takes place is some of my favorite in Hellboy, where he, like, it comes up from the earth and she's like, it'll kill me. And he's like, we all have to die a little to be reborn, to see the dragon.
Yep.
Like, oh... That's creepy. And then she gets in that big iron tomb and starts, like, bleeding and crying blood tears from the face.
Right.
Ooh.
That little troll guy's like, okay, see you later.
So then another meanwhile, there's a lot happening in this 5-issue series.
Right.
We have Liz Sherman and her team stumbling on a different castle, housing the remains of the Homunculus, a golem grown from blood and herbs, and incubated in horse manure, which they describe as a medieval test tube baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a different time.
I guess so. No judgment. Liz is drawn to it and inadvertently transfers her power, her fire energy into it. It comes to life, kills one of her teammates and escapes and leaves her like comatose and near death. None of the BPRD agents outside of the core team last very long in this. There's the other guy that's with Abe Sapien, who has like an eye patch, and you're like, oh, this dude's, he's gonna do something.
He's badass.
Nope, just gets impaled on like a pike while wearing his rocket pack. So not only does he get speared, he then explodes because the tank, the tank gets punctured. But outside of all that calamity, back with Hellboy, he blows up the castle.
Yep.
But not before confronting Hecate.
Hecate, isn't it?
I call her Hecate.
Okay.
You can call her Hecate.
I'll just go with you. I don't feel like arguing.
Right. Whatever she is, she's like an ancient, like Greek god type of mythological creature.
Right.
Who's telling Hellboy, like, we gotta end this reign of men. Time for the old gods to reclaim the land.
Right.
And Hellboy, in his normal Hellboy tone, is like, suck it. So they go out of the castle. She burns up on contact with sunlight.
Yep.
And then the place blows up, and he's covered in rubble, dug out by the kind of semi-possessed villagers that drag him and tie him to a post in the crossroads.
Right.
Where he is to await the emergence of a fully rejuvenated Giraskew.
Yes.
On horse.
Oh my god, yeah. So
in Napoleonic gear.
So he's got a great look.
Oh, it's awesome.
And he's got Hellboy dead to rights. Hellboy's up on a post. He's trying to struggle to get out of there. And he's charging full bore with saber in hand.
Yep.
He's coming for HB, like, no matter what. And then Hellboy, with all of his strength, cracks that post right as that horse and Giraskew comes up and bones him hard. Hellboy hits him so hard, he turns into a skeleton.
Yes.
He gets boned.
For the second time.
Yeah.
But it was all something to do with Giraskew transferring, like, the last bit of power that Hecate, or Hecate, had given him. They're transferring it all into the Iron Maiden, and that thing is gonna just unleash holy vengeance on him.
Yeah.
So it comes out of the forest, gobbles him up with these razor-sharp teeth that looks incredibly painful.
Yep.
And he's in this weird, like, abyss of blackness.
Right.
Where he's getting voices saying, like, telling him his true destiny. He's going to bring forth the end of days. His Hellboy horns start growing out. And he's being watched by three figures. This kind of elf king, the Baba Yaga, minus one eye, and this shrouded, masked figure, who we later, way later, find out is Sir Edward Grey, the witch finder. And they're just kind of watching to see what he does. They're keeping tabs on him. And Hellboy renounces his destiny, breaks the horns off, and then, like, comes to, and he's alone in the woods. Iron Maiden gone.
Yep.
And that's essentially it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very weird, kind of anticlimactic story in the fact that he fights three major villains, and all of them are just, like, done like that. Or that he doesn't even fight them at all.
Right.
But sometimes that's how it goes in Hellboy.
Yep.
I feel like Mignola probably started this with an idea in mind, and it just kind of evolved as he was writing it to something completely different. Yeah. And he was like, well, this works too.
I'm done.
Yeah. 5's good. But I love it. This is one of my favorite Hellboy stories. I like all the weird directions it goes, and that it doesn't just end in a big, like, slobber knocker. So it wraps up with Hellboy being escorted back to the BPRD with the remaining crew. And back in, like, the bowels of the castle are the remaining Ragnarok crew. Right. Who are just bickering among themselves. Right. Before, I think Rasputin gets so pissed off, he strikes Zinco blind. And then Zinco accidentally, like, hits a self-destruct button and blows them all up. And then in a final epilogue, we see Rasputin sulking with the Baba Yaga, who coerces him into laying down his bones and cozying up in her chicken leg house. Yep. But he refuses, stating that he wants to go on a little longer, hopefully to become a god. And she lets him go, but pretty much knows he's just kind of a joke by this point.
Yeah. I like how she humors him a little bit. And it's like, well, all right, give it a shot.
Yep, go ahead.
Not gonna do it, but all right.
Works out for you. So that is, that's Wake the Devil. I feel like this one really sets up the Mignola writing pattern that he carries with pretty much all of his stories going forward, where the first issue, or maybe first couple issues, are very dialogue heavy and crammed with, like, exposition, folklore, and case files. And then after that, after, like, the plot is set up, it just devolves into nothing but, like, slam bang monster fighting.
Right. I maybe that's a good hook, because it is interesting stuff, because it's all, like, folklore and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So once you're hooked, and then you actually get on the adventure, it's like a non-stop ride to the end.
Oh, yeah. One other notable part that I liked when Abe and the eye-patched agent are exploring neighboring villages. They come across a trap, and Abe comes across the ghost of Rasputin, who tells him that he's basically like picking off all the people responsible for his death. He says like Liz is fucked by that homunculus guy, Hellboy's done for, and you're gonna be done too. And he's like, I'm gonna spear you. It's not gonna be me in the hand of that spear, but it's gonna be me in the heart. So he's kind of laying the path for something that comes up in BPRD in the future.
Wow, okay.
Yep. And this is the first time you hear this kind of weird poem, too, that says, Abraham Sapien, sunken bells are tolling for thee, which is uttered by the severed head of a priest. And that phrase is repeated many times through Abe Sapien in the BPRD series.
Okay.
That leads into, like, his entire backstory.
Okay.
So then, wrapping up Omnibus Volume 1, we end with the 2-issue story, Almost Colossus.
Yes.
Which is pretty much a straight-up follow-up to Wake the Devil. And it focuses on Roger. We'll just call him Roger for the sake of having to pronounce homunculus every time.
Yeah.
Meeting his brother, another golem created by a Frankenstein archetype, who killed his creator and plans to overthrow humanity. So Roger feels compelled to help his brother, even though he doesn't really share his disdain for people. But he feels like, well, this guy's like me, I should probably, stick together.
Right.
And we also check in on Liz, who is like near death. The BPRD agents are checking in on her. They can't understand why she's not hanging in there, but her life force is gone, having transferred it to Roger.
Yep.
So it's kind of a race against the clock to get Liz back up and running, and also explore this mass grave robbing that's going on around that area that Hellboy's investigating.
Yep.
And they all cross paths in this old castle where it turns out Roger and his brother have been excavating graves, throwing the corpses into a big vat, and boiling up like a giant body made of human fat to go wreak havoc on mankind as they would like steer it in the brain of the colossal beast.
That's just sounds so disgusting to me.
Oh my god. Can you imagine what that would smell like?
Even in Fight Club, where they have that bag burst open of human fat, I'm just like, want to puke. And then I can only imagine it's just like, so many bags of that fat went into this giant beast of a creature.
Yes. This colossal beast is just pummeling Hellboy to smithereens.
Right.
And finally Roger, like, mans up and he's like, okay, this is going on too far. Hey, brother, I'm gonna join you in your crusade. Pop me in your mouth. So he...
Pop me, bro!
The giant scoops him up, swallows him, and then Roger, using Liz's firepower, just burns the thing up into, like, liquid fat, bubbling down the countryside.
Yeah.
And they scoop up Roger, and Hellboy takes him back to the BPRD headquarters, like, you get Liz better. And he does. He touches her after she just perished and like shocks her back to life, and then he collapses in a heap, and Hellboy's like, it's too bad, he was a good guy. And it says like, the agents are going to take him back to the States and investigate him further, which we find out later he gets pulled into the BPRD too.
Yep. Fun character with that Roger.
Oh yeah, he's good. He becomes a fan favorite there.
Yep. Fun note, Mike Mignola actually won an Eisner for these 2 issues for Best Writer-Artist for a Drama.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
For Almost Colossus.
For Almost Colossus.
Interesting.
That is.
Where do you rank this short story in the Hellboy pantheon?
It's not my favorite one. But of what we've already read in this omnibus, I think it's probably my least favorite story.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it's a little longer than it needs to be, but it's pretty solid.
Yeah. It's not a bad story. Don't get me wrong. I'm just.
All right.
I just don't want the internet to turn against me again.
And then lastly, also included are 2 short 4-page stories that preceded all the other works, and these were both written by Byrne again, and were teasers for the Seed of Destruction miniseries. And they're basically just showing Hellboy encountering various monsters and giving audiences a taste for the character.
Mm-hmm.
They're short, fun, inconsequential, and also gives us a first appearance of the Nazi head-in-a-jar scientist, Hermann von Klempt, and his predilection for robot gorillas, which, much to Hellboy's dismay, can talk. So that's it. That is one of our fully immersive look into the beginning of Hellboy, and we will follow this up with several more episodes once a month as we explore the collected Omnibuy along with more Magnolaverse titles. So stay tuned for more Hellyear.
Yes.
Any certain ones you're looking forward to?
I am looking forward to this sounds bad, but like when Mignola drops off art duties. I like the stuff where they do with Richard Corbin.
Yeah.
When they get into the Appalachian Mountains with the Crooked Man and type of stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. And Duncan Fegredo.
Yes.
He takes on the main Hellboy title.
For a pretty extended amount of time.
Yeah.
So what do you listeners and viewers out there think of Hellboy? I know it's not covered a lot by the big, huge comic channels, but it's an itch out there that people want scratched.
That's right.
To watch a little bit more about. So...
It's a niche with an itch.
You bet it is, Dave. So let us know down below what you think. If you want this conversation to continue, you can join us on our Patreon for more in-depth coverage of other things, such as an ongoing book club that we are doing, as well as a twice-monthly podcast that me and Dave also do.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. That'll be the show for this week, Dave.
It'll do it, yep.
So we're planting a lot of seeds here in the beginning of 2019 of things going forward.
Seeds of construction.
Very good, Dave.
Thank you.
But until next time, I've been Troy to the Max Extreme.
And I'm Ghost Hunter Dave.
And this has been Imperius Rex. We'll see you next time.
Imperius Rex. 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 Imperius Rex.